Recording.
All right, welcome to the Centralized News, your weekly brief of the biggest stories affecting the cryptoverse. I am your host, Piter, joined as always by my friend Ozzy. How's it going today?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all
You,
right.
you celebrating the new Prime Minister of Canada?
I am. I'm pretty
Are you
happy
happy?
with the results.
I saw some tweet that they're banning tweet. They're banning X. Is that true?
No.
Oh, it might be. Maybe it
Uh,
was a recent tweet.
I not that I've heard of, and
Okay.
I mean, the only thing might be that they're like discouraging government like communications on it. That might be it. Like at one point they were pushing it really hard, but they might not be pushing it as hard. That'd be the only thing I can think of. They're not really in the mode of banning social media.
I don't want to start this thing off with fake news, but anyway, I saw little rumblings about that. We'll see what comes of it. Well, let's get into the cryptoverse a little bit. Big story out of Arizona. Katie Hobbs, the Democratic governor of Arizona, she had a chance to make history, but instead, maybe she did make history in her own way. She officially vetoed the state's strategic Bitcoin reserve bill. And it's a really short memo that she wrote, but in it, there's a quote here. Arizonans' retirement funds are not the place to try untested investments like virtual currencies. The Arizona Strategic Bitcoin Reserve would have permitted Arizona to invest seized funds into Bitcoin and create a reserve managed by the state. Wendy Rogers, who co-sponsored the bill, said she would refine the bill for the next session. So they're not totally giving up on it, but it's definitely a big setback. She also pointed out, though, this was interesting, that Arizona's state retirement system already holds Michael Saylor's strategy, which is for people like me and you, just a riskier version of Bitcoin, like a leveraged position. This is now the sixth state to have tried and failed, although this got the closest. This got all the way to the governor's desk, first time. It's hard to imagine that if this was a Republican governor, like if Kerry Lake had won, it was a close election, this probably would have gone through. It is possible to overturn it, but it takes a 2/3 vote. That would mean 9 votes out of 60 in the House. That's 15%. Not going to happen. Senate required 3 out of 30. That's 10%. So that is not expected at all. But anyway, I couldn't help but think of Rocky training, like montage, and that's Bitcoin, like calling me untested. And also relating it to virtual currencies, just throwing it in a whole bag with everything. This may be considered a big fumble in time.
Oh, absolutely. I think it'll be seen as a big fumble. It's it's impressive that it got to the governor's desk like at all. I mean, looking at it, the fact that they'd need almost another 15% in the House means it literally squeaked by in the House. Did better in the Senate, but fails at the governor's desk. It's we're seeing headway. Things are making progress. It's just, you know, we were originally talking about 30 some odd states having filed strategic Bitcoin bills, and now, we've already seen almost, you know, 30, like 20% of them fall off.
There's going to be a lot of bad news before there's good news. We speculated on that a little bit. But it looks like one of these may break through. We'll see.
Yeah,
There's movement in a lot of other states. It's moving forward. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out.
absolutely.
It would
And
be a big story if it breaks through. Huge.
oh,
Just on the state level, it'd be a huge story. And it's not going away. And I think some of the things pointed out in the story, like the retirement fund owned strategy, it's not really untested. It's got a $1.5 trillion market cap just about. And so it's getting tested every day. That's how much value is there to be stolen. And it's held on for 16 years or whatever it is. So it's not untested.
no, it isn't. And sometimes it's the lack of experience of the governors. Like, does the governor really understand Bitcoin? From that memo, doesn't seem really likely that she did, lumping it in with all virtual currencies. And I think it was just kind of, I guess, the little bit of that kind of political line in the U.S., Democratic versus Republican, that maybe played a little bit of a part.
Well, she's not going to get much help. It's not going to help her fundraising, I guess, from this part of the market once her term comes around. I'm not sure if it's 4 or 6 years. My gut tells me it's 6 years in Arizona, but I'm not sure. She's been in a couple of years already.
Yeah, but the other kind of big story ish that's come out this week and could make history if things keep working this way is that Apple has dropped the iOS ban on in-app crypto payments. So this wasn't done willingly by Apple. They were forced to by by a
Yeah, when
US
I first
court.
read the headlines, thought they
They
were
were
lightening
changing their
up, but that's
mind.
not what happened at all.
No. They were forced to by a US court ruling, which is forcing it to end its restrictive payment policies, including on crypto, which is giving developers, especially crypto developers, a new freedom on iOS. For the most part, crypto games could not really be deployed in the iOS ecosystem, which really hurt their ability to be used or kind of be seen within the US market and the North American market in particular. But now crypto games can not only be on Android, especially mobile games, but now also on iOS, which is really big. A lot of people have said that it's incredibly bullish for Web3 and NFT integration because this ruling now means that they can link to external NFT collections. They can direct users to crypto-based payment systems. They can operate outside of Apple's in-app purchase ecosystem without special entitlements. And there's no requirement to route payments through Apple, and NFTs are now functional and allowed to be within the blockchain apps on iOS. So that's
Yeah, there was a little accusation about them being passive aggressive about it, and maybe they can find new ways to point 2.0 apps in their ecosystem. There new ways though, because the court, like you said, is ordered, but there's a little bit of a worry there.
Oh, absolutely. If Apple is really like dead set against this and isn't willing to kind of come into the modern age of at least a somewhat open ecosystem, then I'm sure they will try and find a way to get around this ruling. But this is the kind of the latest ruling in the 2021 antitrust injunction that has resulted from the battle between Apple and Epic Games. So this is very interesting. It could mean a big boom because like mobile gaming is one of the big spots where crypto is seen as potentially having a major breakthrough, with a lot of mobile games being very popular in Asia and Africa, South America. And so, but having limited access to like Europe and North America because of the iOS ban. So this could open up that opportunity in that space for a game to really take off and kind of maybe become crypto's first killer app. Some would say that Polymarket was somewhat of a killer app during the election, but its popularity
It
hasn't
seems like if it's really
continued.
going to be the killer app, it's going to be big enough to like really move the market, like the whole market almost. But maybe it's more likely now with this kind of opening for development. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It makes it also more interesting to invest in a crypto project that wants to do a mobile game because now they aren't siloed. They aren't stuck down in one area. There's a lot more possibilities for both revenue and for market share. And so could be a huge driver for crypto gaming.
Or if you're just holding NFTs, there's a lot of talk about NFTs in this article too. Oh, are they gonna ever make a comeback? Let's see. If you're enjoying the content, please do consider subscribing, liking, all that stuff. Comment. We certainly appreciate it. We have another story here today. Is it today or tomorrow? No, tomorrow.
Wow.
But this is when we post it. Anyway, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is required to submit a comprehensive assessment regarding the establishment and management of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. This evaluation stems from President Trump's executive order issued on March 6th of this year, which mandates the creation of a reserve funded by Bitcoin assets seized through local proceedings. So this Bitcoin stockpile is expected to address legal and investment considerations for these initiatives. The report is considered significant as it addresses the feasibility of increasing U.S. Bitcoin holdings, like this budget neutral idea that came out of this, as well as just setting a precedent for how governments in general deal with their crypto holdings. So exciting. Watch for this news this week. We'll see if the report even happens, because on the other side, or as well in this March 6th EO, There was issued agencies must provide a full accounting of digital assets held by the Secretary of Treasury to the President's Working Group. It's been 2 months. We haven't had a report yet, so a bit of a concern. So plus and minuses from this EO from March 6th.
Yeah, I mean, they've got till the end of day tomorrow or Tuesday for those watching, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll make those reports public right away. It could be Trump usually likes making things public and being big and flashy and showy about it, but if there's any kind of bad news or maybe kind of gray areas in either of these reports, then he might choose to hold back a little bit before going to make the splashy headlines. So it'll be interesting to see, but we have nothing significant leaked just yet. So maybe we'll have news for next week's show.
Let's get into some adoption quickies here. Just before the Arizona veto came out, there was a little story about Roswell, New Mexico, which is famous for the UFO crash landing back, I think it's in the 40s or 50s, a long time ago. But it becomes the first United States city to launch a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So happy news over there.
Very, very happy news. New Hampshire also had some pretty good news with their state house passing their strategic Bitcoin reserve bill. It still has to go to the Senate and then the governor's desk, but it has made some progress within the New Hampshire state legislature. This is kind of big because there's a lot of bills that have died on the House floor in this story of, state Bitcoin reserves. So this is good news for New Hampshire. Looking at some other adoption news, $3.5 billion coal mining company Arpel has bought $42 million worth of Bitcoin. Interesting move. Some more corporate Bitcoin strategies happening, and that's not the only one. What are the other ones going on there, Piter?
Japanese closing company ANAP Holdings Inc. bought 35 Bitcoin worth 3.3 million. Also, we have Brazil's largest bank, Itaú, to fund new MicroStrategy copycat called Orange. They will buy 210 billion in Bitcoin to start. And then we also have out of the Middle East, UAE's Ruya Bank becomes the first Islamic bank globally to offer virtual asset investments, including Bitcoin, through its mobile app. So around the world.
Yeah, it's you don't just have to count on the U.S. We've got South America, Asia, and the Middle East all joining in on the crypto and Bitcoin adoption wave. That being said, looking a little bit closer to home again at the macro for this week, there's going to be all eyes on the Fed. We have a Fed meeting this week, and while markets are still not expecting a cut till July, we're wondering whether we'll have some more kind of information about the end of quantitative tightening. This has kind of shifted a little bit when markets last week were predicting a cut in June, and the market has really flipped and is now really dead set on July being the first cut of this year. But that might have to do with some of the macro numbers from last week. Those macro numbers were kind of all over the place, to be very honest. I think a mixed bag would be the best way to describe it, but kind of starting at the big news, unemployment came in kind of unchanged at 4.2%, and PCE inflation data came in flat, but that was at expectations. The year over year number was a bit above expectation, but still down from 2.7%, down at 2.3%. So overall, kind of good news on inflation, but nothing kind of groundbreaking.
I mean, it didn't beat expectations or anything like that.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like the last CPI reading that was really beating expectations. But kind of looking at the rest of the economy, the GDP came in at negative 0.3%, which was way below the expected growth of 0.4 and down from 2.4% in Q4. So that's pretty big downer on the market. And looking at payrolls beat expectations, but they're below last month's. Job openings are down, and we're kind of seeing a lot of mixed bags with housing sales up considerably and way above expectations, but other aspects of the economy just not showing that same strength. So very, very mixed bag last week, and we'll see how that affects the Fed's decision making this week. But
I was
looking,
surprised to see all that. You're right. It wasn't that long ago. We were expecting something by June, more likely. I was a little surprised by that. And it seemed like the rhetoric between Trump and Powell has died down. I just thought everything was chilling out. And yeah, we'll get some cuts soon because he was pushing for cuts. But yeah, next week's a big week in inflation numbers. So all this can move again. One thing we know is that these expectations do move. Although it's never been off when it's this high percentage, just close to the meeting. So I think the expectation is no cut. The exciting news will be if there's any comments on QT, the whole quantitative tightening side of the
oh,
story.
absolutely. I think if there's any talk about ending quantitative tightening or
Just an update on it, like it's happening.
yeah, reducing it even further from the last reduction, all of
We
those
kind
would
of update.
be pretty big. And while the market is like dead set that there's no cut this week, comments about the next couple of meetings, kind of in June or July, could potentially help fuel a little bit of excitement in the market if there's any kind of indication that the Fed is feeling more comfortable with the inflation situation or is getting a little bit concerned about the lower than expected GDP growth. Will interesting to see, and that's also going to be kind of informed by next week's CPI, PPI, and import price data all coming out next week. So it'll be a week worth watching. Lots of things going to kind of impact where this market goes in the next little while.
Everyone's watching, curious, see how this whole tariff situation plays out. If it's going to calm down or heat up. The implications of everything, how it's hitting all these numbers, Doge, all the government spending that affects the economy a lot in the U.S. Everybody watching. Well, there is some earnings coming out this week. Jumping the speed one here. Coinbase has an earning call scheduled for May 8th, so potentially exciting catalyst for the market.
Yeah, especially if they beat expectation. They've been managing the ETFs for coin for a lot of the major financial players. So see how that impacts their earnings this coming quarter. And Sonic is also having their own Sonic Summit starting on May 6th. So, Sonic continuing to generate some hype and be
It's had a
right
pretty
there in
good
the
off
news.
season, but yeah, they got to keep it going. But yeah, there's marketing going on. Sonic's out there. Polkadot is also going to soon release the Polkadot app. They're going to enable staking, shopping, and saving all in one app. So development happening everywhere.
Very interesting. On top of that, the Solana Policy Institute has submitted a proposal to the SEC to enable the trading of US stocks in Solana. So that is pretty big. I mean,
Yeah, it's an interesting real world asset story for Solana.
yeah, it is a very interesting story. That being said, they've submitted a proposal to the SEC. This isn't a immediate kind of thing that we will see tomorrow. That's for sure.
Yeah, but also the environment it's submitting to in the SEC is been flipped on its head. So proposals like these, we're like, okay, so what? They're proposing it. They file paperwork. It's never going to happen. We're now. It's, oh, okay.
Yeah, now there's definitely a
What's
chance.
stopping this?
Oh, there's definitely a chance it'll just be how all of the regulatory like the things that they do need to enforce rather than just the anti-crypto mindset
Uh,
impacts this ability. It'll be interesting to see. Hopefully it's a story that we'll keep seeing come up in the coming weeks and probably a couple of months so that we can keep you guys all apprised. But definitely interesting things on Solana right there.
Let's jump into some DeFi. Pancake Swap Infinity. It used to be called Pancake Swap 4, but they went live. So bringing hooks, multi-pool types, and gas savings. And then Athena partnered with Ton to offer USDE, which I believe is stablecoin, to Telegram's 1 billion users. So sounds pretty bullish.
Very bullish, almost as bullish as
Oh, there's
In
nothing
and
more bullish
Out.
than this story.
Yeah, In and Out Burger on X is posting asking which cryptocurrency they should except for payment at In-N-Out. So
I thought that was fun. I'm a big In-N-Out burger fan. You ever eaten In-N-Out?
yes, when
Oh,
I
okay.
went
Do you like
to
it?
it was decent. I found I didn't like
Oh,
their
okay.
fries, but their burgers were
They're
decent.
not known for their fries, although I heard they're switching to like tallow fries or something.
Okay.
Tallow beef oil, which I don't know. There's a really interesting podcast about the history of tallow with McDonald's fries. I forget the name of the guy, but it's super interesting. But they used to use tallow, and they have the best fries or whatever. And they changed to the whole thing about saturated fats in the '70s and stuff and heart disease. It all got shut down.
Yeah.
It's coming back, it's making a comeback, just
Oh,
like crypto
absolutely.
at In
Yeah.
and Out. It's all happening.
Crypto crypto is going somewhere. I mean,
For
we
me, In
were
and Out is all about the overall value. You get like a really nice. I don't like their fries either, but the burgers are great. But it's the overall value. Just you're getting a fresh burger. They make it to order. Everything is fresh there. Like it is what it is, but it's fresh. They never freeze the beef, and it's not that expensive. Like
no,
I think
I
the
remember
price
it
is
being fairly
like
reasonable when I went.
like people compare it to Five Guys, and Five Guys are going to pay 5 times as much. Also, like it's like a good burger and fry, whatever. But it's the overall value. I have an obscene love for In-N-Out,
A lot
appreciation
of
for it.
Americans that I know do.
But I know some people just don't like it, and it's all good. Like I'm not trying to push it on anybody, but I love it. That's my favorite, man.
Oh, absolutely. Hopefully In-N-Out can really help,
Bringing make crypto great again in
yeah,
America. Let's go.
beat that 95, 97 level that we've been trading around for the last week or so. But
What do you think?
y-
You think the bull run's coming this year? Think it's gonna happen?
I think the bull run's coming, and you guys can help make it happen by hitting that like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Remember, we are not your financial advisors. You just heard his rant about In-N-Out burgers. I don't know if you want to take his
That's
financial
good
advice.
advice. No, that's good advice. That's solid. That's a solid critique of In-N-Out.
Absolutely. But I don't know if you want to be listen. We're not your financial advisors, so don't listen to us about what you want to do with your money. That being said, thank you all for watching, and we hope you had a great time listening to the show. We'll see you all next week, and thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.